Hi, I'm Portia, and I traveled around the world this fall. I'm also not wearing my glasses and I don't have contacts, so I can't see. Like at all. So I had a poll on Instagram. What countries and what stories did they want to hear? So I am gonna talk about my experience in Japan. Like I said, I went around the world. I don't mean that in like a I went around the world facetious sort of way. I mean I literally went in a circle around the globe. I circumnavigated. I was Magellan out this hoe, okay? And one of the places that I went to was Japan. It was just the second place of like the 9 or 10 countries that I happened to hit on my way going back to LA backwards. At first, Japan was like my least favorite. Then it turned into my absolute favorite. How does that happen? After having gone to so many countries, I realized that it's not so much about the place, it's more about the people that you're there with and that you find along the way. So that's how it turned around for me. First of all, I was only in Japan for 4 days, felt like 4 years, in a good and in a bad way. When I first got to Japan, it was just such an overwhelming experience. I don't know if this is true for anyone else who's ever gone to Japan, but there's something about it that's very overwhelming. When you think of like Tokyo, you imagine that it's a very, not necessarily Americanized place, but at least assume that most people speak English, especially because so many people have said that they've gone to Tokyo. So you're like, oh yeah, it should be a pretty English friendly place, right? No. And it doesn't have to be. Tokyo's in Japan. Japanese people speak Japanese. I think it just was more of like a shock to me, especially because Japanese, the language, has its own characters. So there's not really anything for me to go off of frame of reference wise as an English speaker and an English reader. Almost nothing was even in like Latin characters, you know, like A, B, C, D. Almost everything was written in Japanese characters. So it's like I have to go to house looking thing, 3 slashes. I don't even know what this is, but somehow I navigated. Proud of you. When I first got there, I was just kind of a little frustrated, specifically that first day. First of all, the flight was banging. Korean Air was the shit. Okay, I can't even lie. They gave me little slippers. I had toothpaste, toothbrush, I had video games, I had movies. It was awesome. It wasn't too fucking cold. I was just in this bitch feeling like I'm in first class, you know what I'm saying? So I'm on a high. But then I get into the country of Japan and I immediately realize how different I am. And I don't just mean because I'm black, but yes, I've felt that also. But more so my clothing. And this is something that really surprised me because I just didn't expect it. When you think of Tokyo, you imagine like the Harajuku girls, everyone having this like wild and colorful and really expressive wardrobe. But when I went there, I swear to God, it was as if everyone dressed exactly the same. And I don't mean exactly the same as in they were wearing uniforms. Now, there certainly were girls wearing uniforms. Like, yes, this is Japan. There were Japanese schoolgirls. More like everyone had a dress code. Like, do you remember back in middle school or even like your high school where there was a dress code? There wasn't necessarily like a uniform, but it's like, these are our colors and you can make the tops and the bottoms however you want, just so long as you have the right colors on. That's what it felt like, where everything was 50 shades of oatmeal, basically. Tans and creams and whites, eggshell, khaki. Basically, these are the same fucking colors, but they stretched that color out something serious. Or people were just wearing like black and white because they were in business attire. So then you see me wearing like cherry red. So I'm already kind of like standing out. On top of the fact that I'm standing out from the fact that I'm black, it was like this understanding that every woman is going to wear like a blouse, you know, not a shirt, but a blouse. And the blouse that comes up to here, right to the neck. It was not a clavicle in sight. I'm here wearing a freaking tank top. You can see my clavicle. I'm looking like a whole whore, I guess, like to them, you know. You can see so much of my skin, you know, it's so tight on me. Even the bottoms went away from the body. Everything was like gaucho style and high-waisted. Like everyone. Like it was an understanding that like that's what everyone wore. And me, meanwhile, the hussy, is out here with my freaking skinny jeans on and shit, just feeling really self-conscious. That's how everybody dressed. Since when? I just really felt like a stranger. And when I arrived in my hostel, I had to take off my shoes at the door, which is fine, but I'm wearing like these lace-up freaking boots, so it's like such a hassle, and my book bag is so heavy because I'm carrying both winter stuff and summer stuff, so I'm exhausted because I walked from the train really far. And then it's like, I gotta take off my fucking shoes too. Okay, I get it. We're in Japan. I gotta take off my shoes. Finally, take off my shoes. And they're like, we actually only take cash. And I'm like, ah! So you mean to tell me that I have to put my shoes back on, go to the 7-Eleven, take out cash, and then come back and take my shoes right back off? Why are you doing this to me? So that was just really annoying on that particular day. Like, I was just really frustrated on the first day from the jet lag. I lost the entire day of September 11th, like, because I flew from Hawaii to Japan, but like Hawaii is very far back in the time zone and Japan is very far forward in the time zone. So I literally missed an entire day. Like, I literally, like, the whole September 11th is gone, which is like kind of ironic. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're leaving America on this day. So yeah, I was experiencing jet lag to the extreme. Overall, why it was a really intense experience for me is, number one, like, yes, everything is in Japanese. Like I said, it should be. This is your country. Things should be in Japanese. If you've ever been in a place where the language is so different from your own, there's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes about trying to translate things where there really is no translation, because there is no mutual ground with Spanish or Italian or any of the Romance languages, or even to an extent the Germanic languages. There is a common ground, you know, computadora, you know what I'm saying? Like, they sound the same. You could sort of get it even if you don't actually technically know the language. But when it comes to Japanese, it's like, I don't know what you're saying or what you mean or anything. And your brain is always kind of trying to fill in the blanks, but there really is like nothing that it can fill it in with. So you get really taxed really fast. So that definitely aided in my feeling like this place is very intense, on top of the fact that Tokyo is a very intense place. There are so many people there. It's so crowded, and you really do get the sense that there's a culture, like a very strict culture, but I don't know all the rules to the culture. I am really trying my hardest to be respectful and to abide by as many cultural standards as I can, but at the same time, I don't know the cultural standards. And on top of the fact that I don't even know the language, so I can't even ask, like, is this okay? Because I don't even know how to say, is this okay, in Japanese. As I'm eating, I'm like, is it okay to slurp? Is it not okay to slurp? Am I too silent? Can I talk to people? Is that rude? Oh yeah, you're supposed to like eat all your food because it's a sign of disrespect to not eat all your food. And you know, just like all these things swimming around in my head, and I'm feeling paralyzed, but really all I'm doing is just trying to eat lunch. So that's pretty exhausting to experience, like every hour, feeling like I am just shaming these people. I'm shaming Black people, I'm shaming Americans. So yeah, that was a lot. And in terms of like being a Black person in Tokyo, I found it's not like Thailand, right? In Thailand, they just stare at you. They honk, they whistle. They're very obvious about the othering you. What I found in Tokyo, at least with me specifically, and I didn't have my hair out, like Lord could only imagine what would have happened if I did have my hair out, but my hair was more like twist, so it kind of looked like I had dreads. What they did was more just ignore me, and not ignore me in like a rude way, like not like how they ignored me in the Philippines and Singapore, and it felt very overtly like prejudice. But this was more like, say for instance, I walked on a train, they would just acknowledge that I was there. Like, you could see it on their faces, like, oh, this is a different kind of person. But then after that, they just ignored me. Like, just like how they would ignore everyone else on the train. You know, they didn't go out of their way to like stare. They were just kind of like, all right, I don't really care, I got somewhere to go. So interesting, and not at the same time, like, it really did feel like I was an invisible person. I almost feel like that's Tokyo. I really want to know, like, people of color, how their experience was. But anyway, why it transitioned into being my favorite was, like I said, it's the people that you meet. And I wound up getting a really awesome crew of guys at my hostel. We were like a little United Nations, right? You know, me, the little chocolate drop American girl, guy who was from the south of Japan, which has a very different kind of culture. The dude from Hong Kong, not China, he was very adamant about making that distinction. And I learned a lot about the tension between Hong Kong and China just by being around him. There was a Mexican and an Australian. All of these guys pretty much took me in as their like sister. That's really what it felt like. They were just such awesome, genuine, gentlemanly guys. They just really took the last 2 days of my being there and made sure that I saw and did everything that I wanted to do. How awesome is that? Because they're on vacation also, but it was really important to them that I got to see everything that I wanted to see and do everything I wanted to do. This was just on a whim the night before. It was probably like 1 in the morning. I told them, you know what? I want to do karaoke. And they're like, all right, we're going to get up tomorrow. We're going to meet here at like 10:30, 11. I can't remember the time. And we're going to get breakfast and then we're going to do karaoke. And that's exactly what happened. Look at people doing what they say they're gonna do. It should be standard, but that shit is exciting to me. So that's what we did. We went to kind of like the Japanese Denny's and they paid for me, which they totally didn't have to do. But like I said, they were kind of like my big brothers, even though I was one of the older ones. But then we went and did karaoke. We fucking screamed our hearts out. The one thing that I found really cool just about Japan in general, they seem to really embrace their own culture, right? Like the anime culture, the cartoon culture, just how fun everything is. There's no shame or like, oh, that's for kids or anything like that. They really embrace it. Two things I thought was really cool. They had Godzilla, like a Godzilla sculpture on top of a movie theater as if it's like destroying the movie theater. How funny is that? Two, they had a life-size Gundam that transformed. If you don't know what Gundam is, it's kind of like a Transformer. Basically, it's fucking beautiful. Like, it was amazing. Like, I cried. I did. I cried. I don't care. Because it was just so beautiful. Like, it was just so beautifully made. Like, the engineering of it. I swear it was like I was looking at the real life-size Gundam. Gundam in the show is like the size of a building, you know? So this was just like, because my guys are so great, they took me there, they took pictures of me. Also, I just got so inspired artistically being in Japan. I got inspired to paint and draw, and like, yes, I paint and I draw, but I haven't really been inspired to do such a thing just from being in an environment in a very long time. I just loved the architecture. I love the color scheme, how everything in Japan just kind of looked like it was made from like little blocks. I don't know, like even the cars were like little blocks, the homes were like little blocks. I just found that adorable. And so that was amazing to me. And that felt amazing to just be so inspired by the place. But I also wasn't expecting to be inspired, so I didn't have any art supplies. They took the time to research different art stores. They took me to the Muji store and I got some pens and stuff, and then they took me to this like 4-story art supply store. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this with me. You really didn't have to, but they did, and they just wanted to make me happy. And the Japanese guy, like, he's such a sweetheart. He just had such a masculine, strong, very confident masculine energy about him. He was on it. He was going up to the lady at the counter like, she wants to try this, she likes this. I was just like, you in the running to be my man. He was fantastic. I also realized something that just blew me away. I love the show Inuyasha, right? Inuyasha is set in both modern Japan and feudal Japan. But I didn't realize the actual animators of the show, they really actually drew Japan. They were so accurate with their geography that there's this one scene in Inuyasha where the main character, Kagome, is on a train, and out the window of the train you could see this Ferris wheel that lights up with these different designs. And when I was on the train, I saw the Ferris wheel lighting up in the same way that it did on the animated show. Who spends that much detail? Look, if it was up to me, y'all see the skyline and that's it. But I just felt like that was so cool because I felt like I was in Inuyasha, and that was just such an unexpected bonus. And I did get to see some temples, beautiful nature. It's definitely a place that I would explore again and make sure that I have my art supplies this time so that I could just draw things right there or paint things right there. I know I'm forgetting things specifically about my experience as a Black person. I do remember that the Japanese guy did ask to touch my hair. My hair was in twists, like I said. He touched it. He was saying that it feels very soft, like a soft wool sweater. And I was like, I don't know how to take that. But you did call it beautiful at the same time, so, Yeah, the Japanese guy seemed to be very intrigued by me, especially my hair, and he was asking a lot of questions. But I could tell that it was just like a curiosity. You know, it didn't seem to have any sort of like animosity behind it. I did find it kind of peculiar when guys get together, they just start talking about guy things and they forget that I'm here, you know, with my ovaries. It did seem like they all kind of had a sort of Asian fetish, which was really curious, especially being so upfront about it, considering that they're talking to a Black girl. I just found it really interesting. I don't know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe. Other than that, I'll see y'all later. Bye.